Guys, so we have not recorded a podcast in a while.
Hot minute.
A hot
It's been
minute.
a very long time.
Do you know 6 months?
Was it August? End of
I think
August?
on YouTube it says 6 months was the last episode post.
So around
Shameful. Yikes.
so around August. If you've been following along with us at all, between August and today, we've made some moves. Since the last podcast, we've definitely went through a lot as an organization, as a brand, as a company. Personally, I don't even know if Jordan was around.
That's a good
when we
point.
did the
I don't
podcast.
think so.
He may have
Probably
Oh.
not.
He may have just joined us. For anyone who doesn't know, Jordan, My World Down is our manager for our Halo esports team, which if you've only been listening to our podcast for whatever reason, which you shouldn't be, you should be following us on Twitter at Vandyl. We fielded a Halo esports team and competed. There's so much to talk about.
Yeah.
Because even before getting the Halo team, like my brain's trying to wrap around how long it's actually been since we recorded a podcast. I mean, it's crazy, right?
Well, I think there was just so much logistics and just so much having to plan things that trying to plan around a podcast episode was just kind of not on the radar. So,
Right.
to my recollection.
If you think about it, like it feels like it's been a very long time that Halo Infinite's been out, but it's only been like 3 months.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
That the
insane.
game's been out. So the last podcast was 3 months before the game was even out.
which is crazy.
Before the roadmap was out for HCS, before before even Raleigh was announced, I think was the last time.
Yeah,
we
like there just
recorded a
wasn't
podcast.
anything to talk about. I
Yeah, it
think
was
between
just
that and the game coming out.
And then we got real busy real
Yeah.
fast once they announced Raleigh. So that's why we didn't record a podcast for a very long time, because we hit the ground running, getting a team, doing all the content stuff that we did around the team, going to the event, doing all the content for the event. So
There's
yeah,
just
we were
so
very
much
busy.
there. There's just so much there. I mean, I'm going to try to track back. Okay, so we
If
recorded
you
the
need me
podcast.
to look things up, I can. I have access. So.
This is going to be a lengthy stream of consciousness podcast.
For sure.
Lots of good info still, so stick around for sure.
Absolutely. I'm trying to go back. So we record the podcast in August. September 3rd, we release a video that Audrey made that was our call to action that we are officially looking for a professional esports team in Halo that we want to field for the upcoming season that at this time we know absolutely nothing about.
No one
We
did.
just knew we
Yeah.
wanted to compete in Halo, and it was time to start having those conversations. And I think right around then is when we got Jordan on board. And again, Jordan's who came on to be our manager, our GM for Halo. He was a huge, huge part of everything we did from then on. I still don't think it's quite appropriate. Right after we make that video, which did it incredibly well. That video that Audrey made took off. I mean, like hotcakes. It was being shared around. It got like 11K views in 48 hours
That's
or something.
Mhm.
And we had attached an email for teams who wanted to apply, which was really, really insane because we ended up with, between my personal Twitter,
like your DMs and
my DMs,
Yep.
Vandal's DMs, and email, we absolutely, without question, got probably 175-ish
yeah.
submissions
It's
from
amazing.
people wanting
Yeah.
to go.
Yeah.
So I think
Individuals, teams, all of
Yeah.
the above. Yeah.
everything from amateur to pros,
Yeah,
big
some
time
pretty
pros.
legit pros. Yeah,
Um,
some very well known names actually.
an incredibly well-known name. And that's what's funny is like, that's something I still don't think it's appropriate to talk
It
about
took me
quite
a
yet.
second.
Yeah,
to
we can't
remember.
talk about
But-
that. There's a story there though, and it will come out someday.
Yeah.
I'll say this much. We make that video. We are very early into our search, and a incredibly well-known Halo professional
An OG, one might say.
slid into Vandal's DMs. Slid right in there.
Unprompted.
And unprompted. And said, "What you guys up to? I like what I'm seeing. What are you guys up to? Let's talk. And from there, we did for a while.
Yeah.
Again, I think a different time. Everyone knows who this pro is. It was really interesting, and I am not lying or inflating this story at all when I say we were so close.
Millimeters.
We were right at the finish line, and that fell through on both ends. And from there, I think it was a really serious driving effort because we were so convinced this was going to happen. We kind of slowed up looking at other teams at that point because we were like, this is going to happen. They were saying it's going to happen. We were saying it's going to happen. We were talking about who they were going to team with. We were thinking more, who are the other three people going to be?
Yeah.
At that point. So when that fell through on both ends, we went, oh shit. Because by that time, literally, I would say 2 weeks prior to that deal falling through, HCS announces Raleigh. So we knew we had to kick it into gear. So once that fell through with this Halo Pro, then we were on the search again, right back at it. And we did not, we talked to a ton of people, responded to, I would say at least 80% of people who reached out, I at least responded to. Even if we weren't necessarily the fit, I responded. There were obviously people slipped through the cracks of that because there were just so many and we were working so quickly. But from there, Jordan and I really did.
Yeah.
I mean, we hit the ground running.
You guys had your own like vetting process at that point.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
And we talked to tons of teams that you know right now. We talked to teams that are placing consistently top 8, top 12 right now.
Mm-hmm.
That we came very close to signing. And, you know, certain things just fell through. Being a small org in that landscape was so interesting. And to never have signed a team or really had those talks with teams before was such a crazy learning experience, I think, for all of us.
It's a lot of learning back then. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, we're still learning today, but you got to understand, like, this is the team, us 3 and 2 other people. That's it. We're not like, there's no like ghost organization behind us. It's just us, and we haven't done this before. So everything is a learning experience. And we certainly learned a lot in that very short amount of time between when the game came out and Raleigh happened. There was so much happening.
And I think too, something that I think back on is like me being relatively new to like the esports, you know, scene and everything, and us being a brand new organization. And obviously I don't know anything about that. We're learning what that's all about, but us also trying to do things differently, as we always say that we try to do. So it's just a whole lot of like not knowing like where to start, and then just kind of like falling upward, but also like trying to kind of pave the way for like, I don't know, just a more refreshing way of doing things too was a lot of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for me, the craziest thing about the entire process, this is just being totally honest, perspective of someone who came in not really dealing a lot in this
negotiations
world.
and whatnot.
In the negotiation of like securing a team who will be playing for us, working for us while we're also working for them, right?
Yeah.
I think 2 things really surprised me. A, how many, again, top 8, top 12 teams, tons of top 16 teams right now, reached out to us, right? And their main reasoning was the future of Vandyl. These people believed in. And that's something we've had echoed a lot, at least the last 4 or 5 months, has been the sentiment of Vandyl is your future is incredibly bright if you guys just don't take the foot off the gas pedal. It's just starting.
You don't even know yet. We've been saying that, and people are like, well, you know, they're already impressed with what we've done so far, and they're like, well, what could be next? You know, it's awesome.
Yeah. And I think that was really incredible to me, is every team that we talked to reached out to us for the potential of the future. They wanted to get in on the ground floor.
And I think something else to note there is that we were very honest with those teams. We weren't like lying and saying we were going to give them this and give them that if they played for us. Like, we're not out here to screw anyone over by locking anyone into something they didn't, you know, they weren't expecting. And for from our side of things, we know where we are at. You know, we know we're a new org. We know we're small. We know we don't know a lot, and we're not going to take away opportunities from people who have the potential to go get the bag for themselves, you know, early on in this game. Like, we're not here to stop that from happening because we care about the scene and the players in the scene.
I think that's the other thing that surprised me. That's what I was going to say is how often these dudes are getting fucked. And that's just
everyone.
The brutal
and they don't know any better.
Is they don't know any better, and it's also a thing where like Halo pros have never really gotten the bag, right? And I think with the partnered program, HCS building all of this hype around it, everyone was stoked for Halo Infinite. There was big time money out there. I think people were like, I'm finally going to get to make some money. Yeah. So I think anyone who was dangling the carrot to these players, they were jumping at.
Yeah.
But they weren't reading their contracts that they were looking at or signing. So we'd be in conversations with people, and I'm not going to go through any details on any of that, but just the amount of times Jordan and I would hear something and it was a huge question mark, like what? And this was both from larger orgs, this is from lower orgs, shadiness all around. Mm-hmm. It was unbelievable. And I think that's a lot. I think that's a huge reason why a lot of these teams came back to us for second talks, for third talks. Let's hop on another Discord call and try to work things out, because we were just being straight up with them.
Like Xavier was. Up.
We weren't trying to dangle anything that didn't exist. We weren't trying to put them into some crazy contract agreements for long term with no return, massive buyouts, nothing like that. We knew what we could provide. We tried our best to provide the absolute best that we could at the time. I still think we did. And I think that's what made people really respect us, was that's how we were kind of approaching this entire, sea of unsigned teams during preseason of a game. Mm-hmm. That's brand new.
A brand new game that nobody knew anything about.
Everyone at that time is going, who knows?
Yeah.
It's all faith-based at that point. It's just I don't know. Yeah. Maybe. You might be a good fit.
What's crazy though, what's crazy is that it hasn't really changed that much. Like, even though we're 3 months into the game, we're basically two majors, and I know one of them was online, kind of. I don't know. We're in a weird situation, but we're 3 months into the game, and like all of that stuff we just talked about is still going on and is going to continue to go on for months, because that's just how that's how esports is. It's still a very young scene, and I don't mean like age of the players. I mean esports as a business, the way it exists right now, has only been around for a decade. Like at this scale in North America. So, and I'm splitting hairs. There's other scenes that have been around for longer than that, but not in an FPS arena shooter like this. And like Justin said, this is kind of the first taste of that big scale esports business mumbo jumbo that Halo's really had, other than, like obviously they're the OG esport for MLG and have had big deals and stuff like that before, but not on the scale that it's happening now. We've got 300, 400 teams in every open. Like, this is nuts. This has never happened.
Yeah, it really hasn't, and I think that's what leads to all this shadiness, and it's that no one really knows how to navigate that water.
Yeah,
and a lot of the times, and I've said this before, and the longer we're in the scene, the more I'm noticing it, because again, I'll take almost any conversation someone wants to have, and I'm still seeking out conversations to educate in this space, right?
Yeah, right.
But I think being older now, like if I would have started this at 19, can I guarantee that I wouldn't have been slimy in these situations? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of who you're competing against. Like us as an org, we're competing against other orgs whose owners are fucking 17 and really have no
daddy
idea.
Money or with daddy money, crazy money that they didn't have to.
And they just don't know how to navigate the world of
business. Or what
business,
questions to ask, or
what questions to ask, and they don't give a
shit. Yeah.
Why does a 17-year-old care about a 23-year-old's well-being? They don't, man. They want to win at any cost, and that's written on that sheet of paper. And no shade to those people. It's just the way it is. We don't practice business that way. To be clear,
we are not. This is not directed at any one org, or this isn't a specific story that we heard or anything. This is just the general vibe things that are going on. Yes, that is definitely happening. There are people that young doing that to other people. There are people our age that know better that are doing it to young kids. Like
absolutely.
Carmeo was on our team. He was 16 at the time.
Yeah.
And like there's tons of really, really talented kids that age that don't like they just don't have the life experience to ask the questions.
Right.
So it's very very touchy stuff that we're talking about here. And there's lots of people doing it right too. Like that's not to say that there isn't like fine upstanding orgs or people doing the right thing, but with this many teams and this much young excitement going on in the scene, it's like everyone is prone to making a bad deal, even if they're not trying to. Like some of these owners or orgs are, they just don't know any better because they're in our position. They've never done it either. So they're making bad deals because they just don't have the experience, and everybody gets hurt in that situation. Orgs disappear, players get hurt, blackballed, all kinds of things. So it's scary. Just watch your back.
Yeah. I mean, and ultimately, it's up to the players, the individuals, to read their contracts and see what's in there and understand like, hey, if you're sitting there questioning it, it's probably a good idea.
Yeah, trust
to
your gut.
Seek a lawyer or reach out to
Have
someone else who
read
knows
it.
What. Yeah,
have a parent read it.
Hey, might take a
Just
look at this and
anyone
tell me if you're also getting bad vibes from this. And yeah, I'll end that part of that.
Yeah, we can move
rant
on
there.
From
Yeah. So how did we get our team?
Yeah. So again, I'm not going to say names. I just don't think that's appropriate, and I'm not trying to like flex as to who we were trying to get. I think that's kind of weird. We had narrowed it down and we're very close with 2 teams. And Jordan and I had multiple calls with them.
Setting the scene. This is I'm excited. Go ahead.
And
painting the picture.
They were great teams. They are great teams right now. But both of them, one of them is an incredible team right now. And there was just something. Let me rewind. There were 3 teams, one of which we absolutely couldn't afford. And we knew. And so as soon as we realized that there was no wiggle room there on what they wanted, we cut the ties immediately. Because I said, if this is something, obviously we tried. We negotiated back. They were very firm. They ended up getting signed to another org, got what they wanted. Unfortunately for that team, that didn't work out for them. They ended up disbanding. But that team was a little out of like what our quote unquote budget was. The other 2 teams we were in talks with, negotiating, things were going very well. I was convinced in that moment we were going to sign one of them. Jordan was very much convinced we were going to sign one of them. And there was a young 16-year-old that I had heard about and knew about, and his name was kind of rumbling through the scene as this cracked Halo 5 kid, 16 years young, by the name of Carmea. And I followed him on Twitter. He followed me back, hit him up, and was just like, hey, would you be interested in talking? Because whenever I went to his profile, I was just kind of scrubbing through, and I realized my man already had a full squad. And at that time, his squad was himself, Zerka, Wensor, and Simply Fear Me. Those were the 4. And I knew every one of those names. And so I said, that's actually a pretty good squad. And so like I do, I have friends who I very much trust the opinion of when it comes to Halo. So I hit them up, coaches in the scene, GMs, whatever, and said, what do you think about these guys? And everyone kind of got back to me and was like, that's a good squad. That's young, and I think the dynamic might be a little weird, but like that's a really good squad. And I said, okay. And there was just something about the more I looked into these guys that I was like, this might be the way to do it.
The ticket.
This might be the ticket. And so I took it to Jordan and said, hey, I know we're kind of like in the last minutes of all of this here, because it was very much crunch time.
Yep.
And I said, but I'd really like to like talk to these guys. And believe it or not, I couldn't make the meeting.
Wait, why? I forget.
So
why?
Jordan, I think I had to go out of town on a
This
shoot.
work, yeah. I think you're on a shoot.
Yeah.
And so I said to Jordan, I said, I really want you to still take this meet. Can you please do this? He was like, absolutely. Jordan handled it. He hits me up the next day and was like, I like him. And I said, then let's try for them. There's just something about them. If they're vibing with us, let's do it. Long story short, some things happen. Simply Fear Me, and I can't remember the exact details on this, could not compete with them. I knew part of it was he was Canadian, but I also think there was some like other things that made it to where he couldn't play with the guys. And so they were kind of trialing people, and they came across Joey Cherished, who, as soon as I chatted with, went, eventually, I don't know if it's right now, but eventually this kid is a good word.
He's a franchise player.
He is a franchise.
Yeah.
He's a franchise. He's going to be the face of an organization one day, like the way that Hiko is for 100T right now. Like he's going to be somebody's pony.
There's
he's
a thing
very good on camera.
There's a thing with players where, and this is the same exact thing with athletes, where there are raw, talented, skillful players, but outside of that, they don't have the get it factor of being an entertainer.
Star quality.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Joey kind of held all of that. And the first time I got on a call with him, I kind of recognized that a little bit. I was like, okay, this kid is very charismatic. He's young, cocky, but in like a confident way, not necessarily like a
respectfully.
Yeah, respectfully. He was saying get shit on to kids, but respectfully.
It's part of the game. Yeah.
And so once I met with him, I was like, we're gonna sign these guys. And a couple days later, signatures on paper.
Made their Twitter banners, and
we went right into doing,
including Carmea's mother, because he was 16, like we said.
Yeah.
We had to get consent from Mama Carmea.
Yeah. Cross your T's, dot your I's, people.
Yeah, that's the other
with
thing.
The parents.
And I think the reason they were so interested in it is, again, we weren't shady. We're straight up with these guys and said, this is what we're going to do. So eventually the team for us going into HCS Raleigh was Zerka, Wensor, Carmea, and Cherished. And on the surface, I think people were like, yeah, like,
sure.
And then we started playing in the opens. And after the first open, I went, okay, there's something here. The first open was about a week after we signed these kids.
Yeah, I remember. And they had to be under a different name.
And they had to be under a different name because we hadn't announced them yet.
Right.
What was the name again?
2 weeks, actually. Their team was, the name was...
I don't remember.
I don't actually remember.
Divine.
Divine.
It was,
Devote.
Devote, okay.
It was Devote.
Yeah, I thought it was a D word. Gotcha.
It was Devote. And so these guys are playing under Devote, signed with us.
Yeah.
And we're working frantically on getting their assets together.
Jerseys,
a launch video, making sure we've got everything buttoned up so we can properly announce them. So for 2 opens, which they did really, really well in, to the point to where by the time we announced them, they were 22nd.
Yeah.
They were the 22nd best team in North America.
Talk about showing up already.
And so I think a lot of people thought like we scouted them from the opens. We did not. That was our team before anyone ever played a game of Halo.
Just so it's clear. We scouted that. They were ours first.
They were ours first. It's not like we signed them. Okay. No, it was incredible. It was really cool to watch them. We wanted to get that announcement out as soon as possible. And as soon as we announced them, I personally think that's where we saw a little bit of a shift in Vandals stock. And we always were pretty confident that was going to happen. But what I mean by that is up to that point, we had been the brand that did really cool shit. Right?
Cool looking shit. Yeah.
Cool looking shit. Like we just
made things that looked cool. Yeah.
Did what we could.
And as soon as we had talked a lot about signing a Halo team, and I think as soon as we did, we weren't just the people who made cool looking shit
and talked about having a Halo team.
We were the people who made cool shit
and had a Halo team.
That was good.
A very good Halo team.
Yeah, very good Halo team.
A conversation worthy Halo team.
Within a week, that very good Halo team is being invited to play in the Esports Arena Invitational.
Hell yeah.
With the likes
of wild
Sentinels and Navi.
The big boys,
and all of the other big boys.
Mhm.
And of course, they'd only been playing together for 2 weeks and they're up against every other top org. So they play a couple games. Again, I'm on a shoot and can't watch it.
Yeah, no. You're just MIA.
But that was such a good dry run for us from like building graphics and understanding what a landscape of.
Especially live too. I think that was kind of the first taste of like, okay, a tournament is happening. We don't know what's going to happen. So I need to kind of prepare for any possibility. And just gathering everyone's logos from wherever I could and just building out like templates for myself. And yeah, it was pretty nutty.
That was a cool night for me as an esports fan, because I watched it in a bar actually.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
I was at Game Arena on OSU's campus. Shout out Game Arena. They're a local LAN center that has like a bar and restaurant and everything, and it was really fun to like go to like a sports bar environment and watch Halo. Like I was so stoked. It was awesome. I think they were also having their own Halo tournament there, like an actual LAN while that was all going on. So I was watching our team. Well, I didn't get to see them because they didn't get on stream, but I was paying attention to our team, watching Halo on LAN, having a good time, and putting out all the amazing graphics that Audrey made. And like that's where esports is now. Like you can go to a bar and watch esports. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, it's incredible. So we come off that. The guys are like bummed because they didn't win it. We're just like, yeah.
So I want to put a note to that. I thought it was actually kind of funny because I don't even remember how many teams there were, but I made
16.
A defeat and a victory graphic for each of those matchups. And we only ended up using like 2 defeat.
Yeah. What's crazy about that is we almost beat Navi.
Yeah.
That was the crazy thing is when I was texting you guys, I was like working, I'm shooting.
Yeah.
I would text you guys. I'm out freezing my ass off on this shoot. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm trying to talk to you guys. And you guys are like, my brothers were watching it. They're like, it's 1-1. And I was like, holy shit. Just beating one of the partner teams in our first public facing live streamed event. I was like, that's huge for us.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I mean, it's enough to be there, but to actually take a map off or a full series off one of these guys. And it was in the losers bracket, so we would have knocked them out.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been incredible. But literally right after that, we are all getting on airplanes and we are going to Raleigh, North Carolina for the first Halo Infinite major. Guys, this is a huge talking point, and I'm not going to speak on this a ton, to be honest with you. I have a lot of questions for the two of you because the three of us, to put it in full context, this is how it went. I will set the groundwork. We get off the esports arena tournament. I immediately get on. I'm not going to go into a ton of contract details as to what we provided our team, but I think we treated them extraordinarily well compared to what I was hearing at the tournament some other teams were doing. There's an airplane. I don't know if you can hear that. Okay, cool.
Keep talking.
We all get in. So book flights, do all that stuff. We get into Raleigh. Now we're just like hoping they all make their flights. They all get to Raleigh. It was so stressful because I can like set up all of their stuff. I can book the travel. I can do all that. I cannot take them to the airport and watch them get on an airplane.
I remember you explicitly reiterating so many times to them, like via Discord and like all the calls, like literally all you guys have to do is get to the airport.
I said your only fucking job is to get on the airplane.
Your only job. And they did it.
And they did it.
And
it's crazy because I have traveled with my style of work now. I travel all the time. So to me, going to an airport is no different than like getting in a car and driving to work. It's that second nature to me. My brain just knows exactly what to do, what not to do, how simple it is.
But factoring in that all of them were from different states. One of them was from Canada. One of them was 16. Like,
so Joey's from Canada. Yeah. That was a huge. That he and Carmea were the two that worried me.
Yeah.
Because Carmea is a 16-year-old kid. I was like, well, I just really hope his mom, nothing happened, because he doesn't get to really decide when he gets to the airport. It's other factors. So it's not just, can he get on the plane? It's, is all the other factors going to allow him to get on a plane? Canada was crazy with some of the COVID stuff. Yeah. And so it was just like, we're sitting in Raleigh just hoping to get a we've landed text. We're in an Uber. And so once everyone got there, big sigh of relief, and our weekend starts. And so my first thing I kind of want to touch on, high level, Audrey first.
Oh,
Because I think it's even more interesting from Audrey's perspective. And once she starts speaking, you're going to understand why I'm going to her first.
Mm-hmm.
Sold out convention center, Raleigh, North Carolina. LAN environment, a ton of players, ton of event staff. Your first ever LAN experience.
Yeah.
And it's as someone who has ownership in the team that is representing that brand.
Yeah.
To the
He's
world.
really building this up.
Like,
Yeah,
it's crazy to think about. Your first LAN is not going down to your local LAN center and
it's
seeing
not just as a fan.
a bunch of kids play 2v2, money twos or something. It's not going to an Overwatch League event with your buddies. It's no, I own the team.
I branded the team.
They are now competing under our brand. That's my first event.
Oh my God.
So we show up. I just kind of want to hear your thoughts.
Oh man.
On what that experience was like.
I mean, I've seen a lot of, footage and videos of like what LAN experiences are like. You told me about the Overwatch one that you went to. So like I had a pretty good picture of at least like what it was going to kind of look like roughly. I'll never forget when we were walking with the team, like on the side of the convention center, like looking through the windows because we just wanted to see like what everything like looked like the day before everything opened. And we got like a sneak preview, remember, into the doors, into the like the main stage area and everything. We're like, oh, that's probably like where just the main stage is. Because in my mind, I was expecting like the second floor to like all have rooms with computers and people had to navigate through, top and bottom floors. But no, it was all in there. And it like even just seeing the screens and they were just testing like, some of the players like pictures and stuff. I was like, oh man, that looks so freaking cool. Like everything was just branded super cleanly. And then obviously like once we get in there and we walk into that like corridor and then it just like opens up completely. I was floored. It was really cool. Just the lights and the fanfare and they definitely like did a good job of like trying to set up for that event. And I would think that they made sure of that because of how much hype there's been behind it. And just this being like kind of a mark of history for a new Halo game that's been delayed, that's been awaited for a long time. No one knew like anything about it. And yeah, just all that. But yeah, it was cool. Like, honestly, like not as many, like I know that there was like what 10,000 people there.
I think it was like 8 to 10
or whatever.
That was the
it did
cap.
not feel like that.
The room cap was 10,000.
Gotcha. It did not feel like that to me. It actually felt less crowded than like what that number was, but still super crowded. Lots of people, really cool. I think the sea of like open bracket and all of that. I thought that was super bizarre to see. Like I've never seen something like that setup of just like rows of people just playing games, people hovering over. I thought was super cool. And just hearing like off in the distance, like someone yelling, eat shit, like you fucking suck. And just and people just like loving it. The energy was super cool to be around and just seeing like people from different walks of life, whether they were like a fan or like a brother or sister of like a player or a girlfriend or whatever. All be there for like similar reasons and stuff. And obviously people that were similar to us and like trying to film the event, people that were like part of like a social media side of like an org too. But all just being there for like the love of a game and just, what's yet to come. But overall it was awesome.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
I still don't think I've ever experienced anything like that from the perspective of like, and I think it hit me more when we left, or like maybe after the first couple days, but just the amount of people who approached us and knew of
that,
Vandyl.
You know me, I can be pretty emotional sometimes, but when it comes to, okay, I don't mean emotional in like a bad way. I just mean like, it's just like little things hit me a certain way and I get just like choked up about it, just like little compliments and stuff. But like when it's something like partially my baby, like Vandyl, oh, it's going to hit hard. And yeah, the amount of people that came up to Justin and I was just kind of around and yeah, just all the kind words like hit me so hard.
I was surprised at I was surprised at the amount of people who said, "Are you guys
recognition?
Are you guys with?" Well, this is how they asked it. Are you guys with Vandyl?
Yeah,
yeah.
The groupies, yeah,
yeah. And I was like, yes, yeah. I dabble
we're
with that
with
brand.
Them. Yeah,
I'm a fan.
a Vandyl.
So I'm a Vandyl. We're not trademarking that one.
Yeah.
Now, Xavier, you had a very different experience because, for context, and I'm gonna preface this with, if you guys have not seen the first episode of our docu-series Conquest, go watch that right now.
On our YouTube page.
On our YouTube page, which is, if you're watching this, just click on over to that real quick and check that out and then come back. Yeah. But that is a product of Xavier being an absolute madman that entire event. So Xavier had a different experience. I just want to hear it from your perspective, Xavier. I don't even know if you and I ever really talked about it outside of like what we would do differently for the next time, but kind of just break down, your thoughts on the event, how it went, how you felt actually having a team there representing our brand and, the shooting. I'm also still just really interested to hear your thoughts on the shooting process.
You probably erased that from his memory by now.
Definitely.
File cabinet.
I can't erase it.
Yeah.
It's burned in there. No, you're right. It was a very interesting kind of stress, like one that I welcome. So we all are creatives. We do this for a living. There's a certain kind of stress that is helpful, right? Sure. When you're trying to be creative, and there was a shit ton of that. But it was, so I used to work for MLG back in the last season of Call of Duty World League before they franchised and became CDL. So I had been to events like this that were run by the same people who ran this event, Esports Engine. Then they were MLG. So I kind of knew what I was walking into as far as like the scale of it and what it would look like and how things might flow and where we could go and not go and things like that. So I wasn't really thrown too many curveballs in that respect, but I was an editor when I worked for them. So I was in the back in the cave, glued to a computer, chained more like it, in a good way. I loved everything that I got to do with them. It was amazing. And this was kind of an extension of that. I was able to walk around and get in there and get the shots that I wanted instead of relying on someone else to get them for me. And that was very exciting. I was really stoked to have that opportunity to shoot something that I was going to then edit. And this is why we never talked about it, Justin, is because as soon as we got home, I jumped into the work. It never stopped for me. Like after the event was over, I only thought about that video, only thought about that event for the next month until the video was released. But yeah, it was a really cool experience. And if you are a shooter or you are an editor or you are a creative, you know that you kind of get into a zone after you have been doing it for so long. And I was just like locked into that zone. So I think a lot of the emotion, like Audrey was talking about, didn't really hit me until I was home, even until way after. But I still felt all those things. But people weren't coming up to me. I had headphones and a camera in front of my face, and like, yeah, I had the Vandal hat on, but no one could see.
Almost scared
they said
to
he's
approach
busy.
you.
Yeah,
exactly, which is great. Don't bother someone when they're working. In the future, if you do run into me at an event, even if I have my camera on, talk to me. I love talking to people at events, even if I'm working. And you could get on camera. You could be part of the next video.
Ooh.
So yeah, it was no promises, but it's possible. So yeah, it was stressful in the best kind of way. Watching the team didn't really hit me that it was our team until we got into champs bracket. Everything after that, I was like, I wanted to turn the camera off and just like scream behind the team, which I did a little bit of.
I'll take that bit real quick and just just
Yeah, I'm
go
gonna
for it.
follow. I'm gonna follow you after that because I have a bit. To
we
share.
didn't set that up, but so our team, this was an international major. So this was not like just an NA regional. This was every team that wanted to compete in the world could, capped at like 300 and something, I don't remember. And obviously we weren't one of the pool play teams. So we have to start in the open bracket. And the open bracket's got, I don't know, 300-ish teams.
Over 300, yeah.
And we come in 15th. I believe we came in 15th, which, if my math is correct, 16 in pool play, 15th in open. That means they had us power ranked as the 31st best team on the planet coming into Raleigh. So, with that being said, if you take that number and look at it, it was assumed that we were going to make it because they were going to take 16 from open, 16 from pool, and make a 32 team bracket.
Yeah.
Yep. Champs bracket.
And from the beginning, all good. We're winning games. It's a long ass day. Man, there were some technical difficulties. We had a first round bye, so our guys didn't even play right from the rip.
It was a long
You
day.
can see more about that in the episode.
Yeah, this is all in the doc. And then a long break, they play. And then they hit a little wall the very next morning. They get through all their winners bracket stuff. Day one, they come in day two, first game of the day, and they lose. So they get dropped to the losers bracket. Now they have a losers bracket run.
Mm-hmm.
If they would have won that winners bracket game, I think they would have only had one more and they would have immediately qualified.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yep.
To
It would
play.
have been a whole different story.
Yeah.
And thank God we had a team of badasses because those boys grinded it out.
They
through the
really
losers
did,
bracket
though.
and ended up securing a champ bracket spot and got top 16.
I don't know if I remember myself being as nervous and excited at the same time as watching them play. I think
that final game of losers bracket, in my opinion, was the most
that too.
gut-wrenching
But I mean, like,
part.
even like from the very first match, like I was like, oh shit.
But that last one for me was just like, this is it.
No.
If they don't win the series,
gut-wrenching.
they go home. Like, it's over.
Like, I had to sit down. You remember? I had to like go sit down for a bit and just like the adrenaline rush that came from that. Like, I'm sure that they probably had more of that, but being a spectator, and especially like to Justin's point, like having ownership of a team and having like, again, it's like my baby in a way. It's our baby, and just watching them do their thing. 'Cause again, like for me, I don't know, with sports, like I could kind of give a shit, you know, it's not my team. And in esports, I'm still relatively new, but having a team that was actually like ours, like all of ours, and we, you know, getting to know the guys and everything, and just knowing them better on a personal level, and just all those factors, just, it was a whole cocktail of just adrenaline and excitement and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And so they make it to champ bracket, and the first team they have to play is Status Quo, led by Flamesword, the man, the bearded man himself. And my God, was that one of the craziest best of 5 series I've ever watched.
Like my heart is racing just thinking about it, because I
still
remember it
sick
so
about it.
I remember it so vividly.
They go up 3-1 on them, or they go up 2-1 on them.
2-1, yeah.
And then, so I think we win a game, they win a game, we win a game.
Yeah.
We're up 2-1, and we just can't clutch it up.
It was
the
a
Slayer game.
the Slayer game.
Yeah.
The Slayer games.
We lost by like what, 3 or 5?
The game 5, we lost by 3 points.
It was
3
seriously such a ping pong match, like
unbelievable.
1 for 1, all up until the end.
And the
I
shit
just
talk,
I could not.
it was-
Oh my god,
It was unbelievable because both teams realized like they were using everything they could. It was not just the mechanical skill.
Yeah.
It was not just that. It was the mental of it too. So we would
Yeah.
get up 5 or 6 points. Someone would go on a hot streak. They'd get up and shit talk.
Yeah.
Then
They knew what they were doing. They
100%.
were veteran players, and the players talk about this in their interviews in the documentary episode, but it's totally true. Like their experience came out. They knew exactly what to do to get in their heads, and it totally worked for them. I think we had the better team in that situation,
100%.
but did not
Yeah.
have the mental fortitude that the other team
Yeah,
had.
I mean, 2 of them have never been on a LAN experience
Right.
before.
Correct.
And
Mhm.
they've played online for however long before that, but for
They're
that,
versing Status
I
Quo,
mean,
who
yeah,
3 of the 4 of them have LAN experience. 2 of them have major LAN experience.
right, they're
Oh, yeah.
veterans. Yeah.
So the ice in the veins
yeah.
is something you build over time. It's not
Yeah.
something you come in LAN day 1 and your
Right.
first LAN and you're just icy the whole
Yeah,
time.
all
That's
good
not
to
the way it
go.
works.
Right.
So heartbreaking.
So many factors.
Best of 5 loss to Status Quo, and the boys are done.
I will never forget though, and this is just my opinion and no shade, but I feel like at the very like when that game finally ended, I have a feeling this is just my, I have a feeling that Status Quo just took a big breath of fresh air that it was over.
They did.
Because I
Definitely.
just feel like, I mean, we put the pressure on them too, you know what I mean?
Oh,
like
man, big time.
like I feel like they were not expecting what we were
No.
bringing to the table.
And we were mechanically a better team that entire series.
Yeah.
Again, it's just veteranship. And
Yeah.
then Status Quo
Yeah.
goes on to win, I think, their next 2 series and secure like top
Top 16.
16.
Yeah.
And we would have done the
Yeah.
exact same thing.
Because after Status Quo would have been what, Warzy?
No, it was
Or-
Chiefs.
Chiefs.
Oh.
It was one of the or the boys or something like that, one of the European teams.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And they decimated them. I remember speaking to Burton after they finally got knocked out. And he was like, you guys would have made the exact same
Yeah,
run.
that's what I heard
Yeah.
too.
He's like,
yeah.
you guys were, of all the teams we played, that was the hardest one in the like open through.
Yeah.
So yeah, crazy experience. So the guys get knocked out, and we kind of spend Sunday, just kind of getting to be more spectator
Yeah.
than more fan,
Yeah.
which was nice. It was cool to be able to just like experience the event a little bit through the perspective of just a fan and not someone who has this pressure of all
Yeah.
of these factors.
And more opportunity to talk to the people around us too and actually like
we used it as a
chat.
huge networking
Mhm.
opportunity. And Sunday's probably when we were approached the most. And I think it's because we weren't hovering over our team
Right.
or doing.
had
Yeah.
somewhere to be constantly.
More
Yeah.
visible. Yeah.
Or every 3 hours.
I think also though, like the fact that they played Status Quo that hard, there was a whole gang of people watching that game. Like Status Quo had
Mhm.
so
Oh, yeah.
many
I
people
remember.
there just to see Flamesword. So like
Yeah.
we didn't really have crowds that big. We did kind of the match before that to get into Champs Bracket. There was a decent crowd because people started hearing about what Vandyl was doing.
Yeah.
And the team we were playing was pretty good as far as like their open bracket run. But then, yeah, playing against Flamesword, I mean, there was just so many people there. And I think everyone took note that, oh shit, this Vandyl team that we've never heard of is like legit. Like they're
Yeah.
taking it to them.
Yeah. And I think that's something I've never really touched on. I didn't really talk about it in the doc, is the amount of people who like asked when we were playing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So they could come support, was pretty cool. By the end, by the time we were in the champ bracket and we were playing Status Quo, we had a solid group of people around cheering for Vandyl, which was really, really fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
what an experience, man.
Again, one of those crying
Um,
moments for me. Or tearing up moments for me.
She's just
Yeah,
sitting
I
in
mean,
the
it's-
corner under a table crying.
Just wipe a single tear, just like wiping off.
The
Yeah.
match hasn't
It-
even started yet.
It was just unbelievable. And from there, the story kind of takes an interesting turn in our involvement in HCS. So I think the last day when we're speaking to them, you kind of still have this like LAN high, I guess is what I would call it.
Mhm.
And this, like, I really do genuinely believe if you'd ask any of the guys, they really loved playing under the Vandyl banner. And they get home, I think they were wanting to seriously think about it. Christmas comes, no one really plays, no one's
Right.
really scrimming, no big deal. There's no opens for a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, because it was a thing where like they were technically off contract with us, because again, we didn't hold them
Right,
on
it's
any
just the
type of
event.
After
buyout
December,
or
yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
And we start getting the messages of like, hey, I think we're going to try to scrim this team, but we want to trial this player. And then another one of the guys would message me and be like, we want to trial these guys. And I said, well, and it was like crossing, like the
Yeah.
information wasn't
Yeah.
the same. And from
Yeah.
there, I went to Jordan, I went to you guys, and I said, I think we're going to lose them.
Yeah.
Like, I think all of them individually want to stay with Vandyl. but I think individually they don't want to play together as
Sure.
a team anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's totally fair.
Mhm.
A brand new team, they had played for about a week before the first open. So they only got
Yeah,
about a week of
it's
scrimming.
insane
Then
to
they
me.
started opens, and then Raleigh happened. So as a team, they had about 3 weeks together as a team.
Yeah, the first
before
open
Raleigh.
was only like 3 weeks before Raleigh.
Yes,
Like,
yeah.
it was not that long that they were a team at all.
And so I think they used Raleigh in their brain, whether they're correct or incorrect decision. I think they used Raleigh, and in their mind, top 32, top 25 to 32 is not good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't fault them for that. From our perspective, it's confusing. But at the same time, it's like, okay, yeah. I mean, we didn't lock you guys in. And if
Right.
you guys don't want to stay, we have to make decisions internally if we want to like play chess with this a little
Yeah.
bit. And
Mhm.
ultimately, we decided that we didn't want to. And so we, mutually parted way with the guys, let them kind of explore their free agency. All of the guys up to this point have kind of bounced around. I don't think any of them have found I don't think any of them are at a stable home quite yet.
Not a permanent one. They are doing very well for themselves.
They are. And again, because they're not at a permanent home, I don't want to say who they've been playing with because I think that's not really
it's not for us
accurate
to say.
or fair.
Yeah,
And
right.
by the
You
time
can go
this podcast,
look at their Twitters and stuff. They are
Yeah.
pretty
and by the time
transparent.
this releases, there's a very good likelihood they're trialing with someone
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Roster mania.
So they're doing well. They're all doing really great. I'm super stoked for those guys. We released the doc episode that was extremely well received, in my opinion, even with all of the trials, tribulations, technical difficulties, learning curve that we went through. Xavier, you specifically.
Yeah.
I'm really happy with the way that first episode turned out.
I'm proud of it. It's like, by no means is it a cinematic wonder piece or anything like that, but it's something to be proud of, especially the fact that we did it on a shoestring, the fact that we did it with like basically a month's notice that there was going to be a
Yeah.
tournament. Like everyone
Yeah.
found out at the same time and had to scramble to figure everything out. We didn't know we were going to have a team until 2 weeks before.
Yeah.
I
think it was I think it was a really good look of just like what a LAN event with being as new of an org as we are and with all of those like last minute things and just the actual stress that kind of goes on with that, and then seeing the raw emotion of the players like after a huge defeat, but like a huge game that was just like inches away from victory and could have meant this and that and whatever,
Yeah.
but just like the actual real look of like being on that side of the coin, and it's not all fanfare and it's not all commentators talking about how great they are and this and that and stuff. But
it was very validating. Like we've talked about the emotional response that we've all had to people coming up to us at the event and saying that they liked us, they liked our brand, but the pragmatic response to that is we're doing something right. That's the big takeaway for me from Raleigh, is that the fact that we had that many people, and very important people, we had some pretty well-known people in the like Twitter sphere of Halo compliment the brand and say that they see what we're doing and that they think it's a good idea and they believe in it, was very validating and very motivating for the future. Like we're definitely not slowing down. Even though we've had a little bit of a break here at the beginning of the year, it's only because we're planning the big ramp up.
Yeah. And I think that's, the next episode of the podcast will kind of break down what that looks like. There's so much to talk about in that episode, but I think if I can kind of like briefly speak on what's next as far as our involvement in Halo goes, there's two main things I want to touch on. Something we haven't really explored a ton is outside of Trunks, the streamer content creator side. That's still something we're internally debating as a group. If that's
Mhm.
something we want to explore. It's just like with the team, we never want to put a streamer or a creator in a position to where it's not mutually beneficial for both parties.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't make sense at the time, or maybe it's not a good fit. And if those check boxes aren't being checked, I don't want to move forward with deals, because I don't want to put streamers or creators into a bind to where like they feel like it's necessary to be creating, but they're not receiving anything back from us. And these last couple months, I absolutely knew if we were going to sign a streamer or creator, they were not going to get full attention from us because we had a team. We were working on the doc episode. It was Christmas. Like there was so many factors going on where I knew that was going to be unfair. And to the insane, genuinely amount of creators and streamers who have reached out to us, I want to say thank you for your interest. It's
so
incredible.
Heartwarming to see.
It's so heartwarming. Yeah. It's validating, in so many ways to us because that's our whole thing here is to build this community. That is the goal, is to build a different type of community in the gaming space. And I think we're doing just that. And I think it's showing. I would love to make it happen. The timing just needs to be right for us. Mm-hmm. As far as a team, we're still actively scouting that. I don't want to go too deep into that. That's a Jordan and I thing that we're still establishing. There are major steps that need to happen over the next 2 months, and that will determine what we do in terms of scale. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
In terms of scale within our involvement in Halo as a whole, I think if some things fall into place for us the next couple months, that really determines the scale in which we do things.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's very true.
But from a content standpoint, that's a whole different thing that I'm extremely excited about that we'll most likely talk about more on the next podcast episode. But as far as Halo goes, that's where we stand right now. Just as a brief update, there's really not a ton we can speak on that isn't kind of confidential between like the teams we're talking to and the individuals we're talking to. And as Xavier said, roster mania is still in full fucking swing right now. I mean, it's crazy. The team shuffle's happening. So we don't want to get too involved in that mess, and that's what I will call it, until we're a little closer to Kansas City and some other things are kind of painting a clearer picture for us.
To reiterate what Justin said, the whole community aspect of Vandyl, especially as it pertains to Halo, like just because we're not signing teams or we're signing a bunch of content creators, that's not the kind of community we're talking about. We're talking about everyone who is a fan of the Vandyl brand. Like, we want you guys to be involved. Audrey is working on a project where we had people submit videos to be a part of the project creatively. And we plan on doing a lot of stuff like that, especially within the Halo scene. So definitely keep your eyes peeled for that, and definitely keep hitting us up. I know it's maybe stressful to not hear back from us or something like that, but it's just because there is a very large amount of people hitting us up, which we love. Please do not stop doing that. We will try to find a way to involve everyone that we possibly can, and we do have a lot of big ideas coming down the pipeline for sure.
Absolutely. And back to the community point, we've always said it's bigger than gaming, so it's absolutely bigger than Halo.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
The long-term goal is not just we're a small brand that makes cool shit and we have a Halo team. That's not what Vandyl is for us. And again, it all ties back to the community we're trying to cultivate. I know for a fact that not every fan of Vandyl right now is a Halo fan. Mm-hmm. They're a fan of Vandyl, and that's what we're trying to build.
And also, speaking of community, shout out to Andrew for setting up that Discord, the community Discord for Vandyl.
Yeah.
If you're not in the Discord, get in the Discord. Go to Twitter. You can find the link there, or we'll post it again. We'll post it again very soon.
We'll put it in the link of the description of this. If you're listening on Spotify or you're just listening somewhere, you can find it either on our Twitter or on our YouTube page under this episode's description. Maybe we'll just start throwing that under every description, just so it's easily accessible. But
join us.
Join us.
Join us.
All right, guys. Awesome.
Cool.
I absolutely love talking about this. I want to make a promise, but I'm not entirely sure we'll keep it. Our game plan is to start doing the podcast pretty damn consistently.
All right, listen, Justin's not going to say it, but I am, because I'm the head of content for Vandyl. This podcast is a 2-week thing, or it's a bi-weekly podcast. That is the goal. And if we say it out loud, you guys can hold us accountable to help us hold ourselves accountable. I really want it to be a bi-weekly thing, and we're going to try our damnedest to make that happen. We're not perfect. We are very busy. We are all full-time creatives on top of doing Vandyl. So give us a little bit of grace, but we are definitely going to try to make it a bi-weekly thing, or at least as close to that as possible. There you go, Justin. I said it for you.
Okay, cool. So Xavier made the promise, so you can hold him solely responsible. If I have to travel for a week or something for our dog is
screaming
officially
right
screaming at us and telling us
He
that
wants
it's
us
time
to
to wrap
cut.
up this episode. So with that, I'm going to let Rocky play us out. Rocky. Now he gets quiet, so that's really appropriate.
Scratching.
That's perfect timing. Well, thank you guys so much for watching and/or listening to episode 4, 5.
Xavier, you should know better than we do. But
I am
I
the
don't
head
know.
of content. It's an episode. I hope
It
you
is.
enjoyed it.
Thank you for listening to
Come on
episode
back.
of the Vandyl Podcast. Our dog is now full on having a symphony
He's saying bye.
of whining. He's also saying bye. And with that, not torturing your ear holes anymore, that's going to do it for this episode of the Vandyl Podcast. Thank you guys so much.
Bye.
See you guys later.